How do you start talking about murder? I want to talk about the murder of Shanda Sharer. Shanda Sharer was born June 6, 1979, and at the time of her death, she was 12 years old. So this kind of all took place January 11th, 1992, in a small town in Indiana called Madison. The four perpetrators or murderers are Melinda Loveless, who was 16, Laurie Tackett, who was 17, Hope Rippey, who was 15, and Tony Lawrence, who was also 15. So the story goes, Shanda Sharer, the victim, had been seeing a girl named Amanda, and they had been dating, and Amanda's ex-girlfriend was Melinda Loveless, supposedly got really jealous about this and wrote different letters and notes to Amanda, saying that she was going to hurt Shanda, that she was going to do this and that, and Amanda ultimately just said, she's not capable of murder. It just wasn't even a thought in her mind. And then one night at a school dance, Melinda saw Amanda and Sharer together, Shanda, and so she started a fight with Shanda. And even that didn't strike anything for Amanda. She claims now that she did go and talk to somebody about the letters and that nothing was ever done. But Shanda's mother doesn't believe her. So, I don't know. Nothing was ever done, obviously, because a poor girl was murdered. Here's what went down January 11th, 1992. So Tackett, Rippey, and Lawrence go and pick up Melinda Loveless. And Melinda tells them that she has a plan to kind of scare this girl that she knows. She had openly talked about not liking her. She had said that it was because she was dating her ex, Amanda. And so when the girls picked her up, supposedly they only thought that they were going out to scare a girl. Now, what's crazy is that Loveless only knew Tackett, while Rippey and Lawrence had been childhood friends forever. But Laurie, Hope, and Tony had never met Shanda. They didn't even know her. All they knew was that Melinda didn't like her and that Melinda wanted to go out and scare her because she was dating her ex-girlfriend. So they agreed to go pick up Shanda. So they drive over to her house late at night, and Shanda opens the door, and they send out Hope and Tony because obviously Shanda had never seen them before and didn't know who they were. So Hope and Tony say, "Hey, is Shanda home?" Which was told later by her father. She was staying at her father's house, and he said that when she answered the door, they asked if Shanda was home, which Shanda answered the door. So obviously something's up. These girls don't know who Shanda is. And they asked her to come out with them, and she says, "I can't right now," or whatever. She said no. She said, "Come back at midnight, I'll sneak out," because what Hope and Tony had told her is that her girlfriend Amanda had sent them, that they were friends of hers, and that she wanted to see her tonight, hang out, whatever. Anyway, they come back later, and they pick her up. Shanda's mother says that she had no plans of going because she left her purse and I think her jacket in the kitchen. But some other accounts say that Shanda went in willingly because Melinda had been hiding under the blanket in the back seat. So she gets into the car, or she's forced into the car, and Melinda pops up and pulls out a butcher's knife and puts it to her throat. So they took Shanda and they drove her up to this place called Witch's Castle, which is a really, really creepy looking building. It's like, it's just one of those, haunted, scary places that everybody has in their city or town. We all know of some place. And it's weird, it's scary, and I can't even imagine going to a place like that at night. It's weird. So they tie her up at her wrists and her ankles, and they start questioning her relationship with Amanda. They threaten her. They tell her that they're going to cut off her hair. They taunted Shanda. They said things like the witch's castle was filled with human remains and that hers would be next. They told her that they wanted to light her on fire. It was, yeah, you can't even imagine going through something like that. It's just terrifying just hearing the story about it. But then they notice that way too many cars are driving by, and so they decide they want to go to a place that's more secluded. So they shove her in the trunk at this point, and she is tied up wrists and ankles. So they put her in the trunk, and then they drive a little further, and then they come to a stop where they take her out, and that's where it really gets bad. So they start stabbing Shanda in the feet and in the legs, and then also eventually get up to the chest. Also, supposedly Melinda Loveless had kneed her several times in the mouth. Shanda had just gotten braces a few weeks before this, so her mouth was bleeding a lot. She was profusely bleeding from the mouth, obviously from her stab wounds. After Melinda had kneed Shanda in the mouth several times, they also tried to slit her throat, but the knife was too dull. Hope Rippey came out of the car, held Shanda down, and they took turns just stabbing her in the chest. So they put her back in the car, thinking that she's dead, and they let her bleed out, and as they're driving, and then they head over to Laurie's house. So they're hanging out at Laurie's house, and suddenly Laurie's dog starts barking. And then the girls can hear that Shanda is screaming in the back, in the trunk of the car, and that you can hear her muffled sobs. So Laurie says, "Hey, don't worry about it. I'll handle it. I'll go out." And she goes out and she beats Shanda in the head with a tire iron until she's unconscious again. But, I mean, the girl is still alive. So ultimately they're like, okay, let's go out. We have to finish this. So Hope and Tony actually decide to stay in Laurie's house while Laurie and Melinda go out to finish the deed, or torture her some more, basically. And this is where some people sort of start to stand up for Hope and Tony. All the girls, or it said that Tony was the one who least participated. She never hit Shanda. She never was the one to stab her. But they all took turns holding that girl down. And Hope and Tony both had hours to tell somebody. Hours while they were alone. So I can't say that they deserve less jail time or that they didn't have any control over it, because, I mean, they could have saved the girl. They really could have. So they're just as much as part of it to me as Laurie and Melinda. Although Melinda's crazy. They're all a little, yeah. Anyway, so Hope and Tony stay at Laurie's house. They say they're going to take a nap. Because at this point, it's just too much. After hours of doing what they did now, it's like, I'm going to take a nap. Anyway, so Laurie and Melinda go out and they continue to torture Shanda. They rape her with the tire iron. They deliver several blows to her head. They continue stabbing her. They're out to kill this girl. They want her dead. This is how they're going to do it. And they shove her in the trunk. They're gone for hours, which is all the time that Hope and Tony had to tell somebody. Anyway, so they're gone for hours. They finally come back. The sun is coming out. It's already, getting to be daytime, and they say, hey, she's still alive. She's fighting for her dear life this whole time. She's still alive. So the girls decide to all go back out. They head over to a gas station where they buy some Pepsis, 2 Pepsi bottles, and they dump them and they fill them out with gasoline. Supposedly at this time, Shanda's screaming so much in the trunk that Laurie has to keep driving the car around so that nobody hears her, and they're just driving it back and forth in the gas station. Anyway, they fill up the Pepsi bottles with gasoline. and they drive further out to an open field, and Hope pours the gasoline on her while Laurie lights a match, and they set the girl on fire. So they say, all right, she's dead, this is it, and they start driving away. Melinda takes a look in her rearview mirror and says, yikes, not burnt enough. I can still see her body. And so they turn around and they pour more gasoline on her and they light her on fire one last time. And that is what caused her death. She died from smoke inhalation. Then the next day, or I guess that morning, Melinda calls Amanda and tells her what she's done. And at this point, Amanda claims she thought it was a joke, wasn't real, maybe meant to scare her. And that same day, Tony Lawrence, her father, had brought her into the police station, and she confessed to everything that they did. So the 4 girls were charged and pled guilty. Tony Lawrence was given 20 years, but she was released after 8. She was released in 2000. Hope Rippey, Laurie Tackett, and Melinda Loveless were all given 60 years. None of them will be actually serving 60 years. So Hope Rippey was released in 2006. Laurie Tackett was released this year, 2018. And Melinda Loveless is set to be released in September of 2019. So something that a lot of people talk about is the fact that these girls, the murderers, the 4 of them, had been severely abused, whether it was physical or emotional or mentally at home. They all had really bad lives. I'm not to say that abuse is an excuse for why they did what they did. And, you know, there are many, many abuse victims who don't go out and kill people. But, you know, a lot of people talk about that when talking about their sentencing and why they're released early and whatever. I mean, it's a lot to take in. But Laurie, Hope, and Tony didn't even know who Shanda was. Like, they just went out and killed this girl, this 12-year-old girl who could not fend for herself. I mean, I don't know, when I was 15, I was really into the Jonas Brothers. I wasn't totally thinking about murder. Who? So yeah, so that is the story of the murder of Shanda Sharer. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them below. Subscribe, watch this video again, like it, I don't know, whatever. If there's any murders that, you know, you want to suggest, that you want to know more about, I love doing the research, I love looking into things, and I love talking about this. As weird as that sounds, I'm not going to be ashamed. Anyway.